But I do know that there was a sump pump, two houses down on that street there. It ran for 5 days with a backup system. And I've never seen water run that bad until I seen them hit the water line across the street when they was putting their creek there.
Then they've messed around.
Yeah,
From the water.
Okay, okay.
I almost said to it.
It's alright, I'll drink the baby water too.
There's only so much you can do about it.
Well, what I'm saying is there's more than just, that sinkhole is not just, it didn't happen out of the blue. There's a creek there that's causing the problems. And I don't think they're gonna look at the creek, they're gonna just try to pacify everybody.
Well, maybe we'll have an inspector there do that work, take a look at what's going on, if there's.
Who you sending out?
If there's water down
You
there.
sending out or he's sending? He's sending somebody out, okay. I trust your guys, I don't know your guys.
I trust him.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you what would happen down there, if we run into, some sort of water, we have to look at. You have to dig it out.
Okay.
He's got a real good.
Okay, all right, that's all I'm caring about. I ain't gonna talk, I just wanted to find out what was going on with that, because it's gonna be a problem later on. It's gonna, everybody's gonna be done, the developer's gonna be done, and that's a key word, development.
Yeah.
Why don't they develop the land properly?
The city's department, whether that, again, whether that's proper to you, I can't tell you, if I change what your property is.
Not like.
Properly is where you don't have problems.
No, you don't.
Not doing like 50 miles an hour over.
Yeah, nothing like that.
Lots.
Nothing
Developed
shows.
There's really various water.
But they're working.
So the city cannot, can't do much about it. One way or
Yeah,
another.
if there's
Well,
any
it's
fire.
kinda like they was
So
talking about the water
they
problem.
grade over, and they grade over ponds, basements into where a pond was.
Yeah.
Think Van Helsing I have water problems?
No, I watched,
It happens all the time.
I watched the basement in there, and then half of it collapsed in. And they just reset the forms and margins. How the hell something like that happened? That epoxy work that good?
Well, I wouldn't, fix walls that would collapse.
Alright, all I heard was my name.
So I got a call.
I appreciate it, that's all. We went down and one of the neighbors called me over and asked.
Yeah, I haven't read it, I can't remember.
I mean, it's running like a 4-inch.
I tried to, on some of his emails, I
So
was
it's
like,
got
three
let me
houses.
just read these and I'll help you speak
Yeah.
attorney.
When we have 30 of them, sometimes it's good because it's not a big
He's got two colleagues.
He does, that's what I was like, let me
You're
just
gonna do this, I'm
tone
calling
it
your
down.
office.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
really fresh. I appreciate it.
They're not gonna call you, they're gonna have their damn attorney call you. They
If
don't
you
care.
look above us, you kind of get an idea.
Well, at least I know some.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's one of the
It doesn't, well, good, at least we agree on that.
warehouse
We got one
managers,
thing in
cause they're out
So,
I don't know why, one of the warehouse managers has a farm right next to ours.
Oh, okay.
And so, I actually was supposed to go down there this weekend.
it's not good. Actually, still like rain.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends. If it rains on go down, it doesn't matter if it's fine.
Yeah. That's time of year. Just, you know, I know expectation, fixing things is like.
Doesn't matter if it rains, it's just.
Yeah, they fix it. Gorgeous, gorgeous.
Good, how about you?
What do you know, there's, coverage you guys. That's fine. Now, my opinion is that he says it's fine or not, I would not buy it, not my right of way. You know? Right.
After they travel around and they start actually coming into their second season. They start getting over most of the break.
It's Kansas, man. You don't need 4 seasons.
I love the heat, but
You get,
I'm not quite expecting it.
you get extended mild winter, and then you get desert.
Although next week.
City needs to want to get involved in services. You got real excited for that, you go, get some.
Hello.
Hey,
guys. How you guys doing?
Yeah.
That's dedication.
Whatever. Really not as bad, but it looks horrible. I just want to hear a story. Man, the story's the worst.
We need to get you some tennis sticks for your ball.
I know, that's what I told him.
Yeah, oh gosh, man. The sooner this is over, the better. Here we go.
Good.
We got a little baby chair.
We got options. Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know how this is gonna work. Okay.
That's good, thank you.
Right, you don't
I'll
want
call you when you
this, you don't want this.
What a mess. So, good to see you all. So, I had a lax day. So, I had this paraglider, parachute that you fly with a power pack on back. And, didn't want this to happen, so I was going over to, wouldn't want to plan it off, going over to Wichita to train. So I never, he let me down. I was the first guy that went that day. We were towing, so I bought a 2005 tow rope. He was like, "You ready?" And I was like, "Yep." And it felt a little off, you know, like I was like, I'm nervous. And the wind was kind of sketchy. He was like, "Let's do this." I was like, "All right." You know, you like, I kind of pushed through the fear. I didn't feel right. And I popped my parachute up and I got under control. I just told him, well, a minute and a half. I said, "I'm ready." Turned around, switch,
Okay.
and the wind was kind of giving me this gentle.
Before you guys
Right,
go
you go.
in,
He can say he anticipates.
I go about 80 feet, and he puts some kills it and cuts it, so now I'm kind of floating. So now I'm like, oh, wow, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. And I start kind of drifting down, I'm coming down, everything's cool. And the wind is shifting, and then floating towards the barbed wire fence, and rack break, come down this high above the ground. And I collapse to the right side of the chute, so I fall to the side, still about 12 feet up. Another roll? That's pretty high. Like a jumping drop. I'll show you the video. Yeah, we've got the whole.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've already got our stuff.
It's, you know, man, you do dumb things, you things happen. Oh, yeah, I gotta be.
I tried to do most of mine on the voice.
You know what's weird is that? You know, this is, it's crazy to see.
Yeah. That's what yep, I just wanna make sure you had. And that's gotta go to the note. But I'm planning to do this.
I'm probably, I'm the guy.
How are you?
It doesn't mean. And this, so whoever's doing. Age just a moment.
I bet not.
My kids don't listen to me now. Thank you. So they're gonna do that.
That's right.
I cleaned that.
5, 6, what was it, 6?
He's got pillows, he's got a lot of chairs he brought.
Exactly.
Is it a problem for every laptop?
Use a laptop here first. Personal laptop.
I mean, are you plugging it in?
No, I'm just gonna open things up. Just
I can't imagine it would
Not
be.
that I know of.
Cool. I didn't know if it
I've
was-
never seen
okay.
and can't.
I just want to be able to open Google Maps to be able to follow things a little closer.
I pulled up.
I saw what you did last time. I'm just not quite as. I saw that. That's exactly what I wanted to bring.
I'll say, yeah, I just use this, but you can even, I logged in my email last time too.
I saw your daughter's picture on Wolf Creek today. You have to check it out. They just posted.
Facebook page?
They were doing some. Yeah, right. They were doing something.
I haven't been on Facebook in a while.
Yeah, my daughter. I just went to second grade. I take note because my daughter was your daughter this time.
Was it the blonde or the brunette?
It's Grace, right?
The older one in Savannah?
Second
class?
grade. Yeah, second grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it was something positive and not
It's cute. That was cute. She's holding something.
right.
Yeah.
Degenerate.
All right, guys, want to welcome you all here at 7 p.m. on May 12th, 2022. Want to welcome you all to the regular session of the governing body of Spring Hill, Kansas. And if we could all stand, Mrs. Roth is going to do the invocation for us today.
Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to meet tonight. We ask that your blessings come through our words, our conversations, and help us make decisions that benefit the community of Spring Hill in the best way possible. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Please remain standing for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Mrs. Roth,
Here?
Mr. Peel,
Here.
Mr. Young,
Here.
Mrs. North,
Here.
Mr. Van Houten,
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any items that are requested to be removed or anything that anybody needs with that?
I think I wanted to see if we could add at least a discussion item about the ordinance we passed last meeting for the indecent exposure.
Okay. Here, so that would be,
We'll just go to announcements?
No, it'll go right before.
Right before, okay.
Yeah.
We'll classify now as discussion.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Okay. Anything else? All right. Next, we have citizen participation.
You gotta approve the agenda.
Sorry. I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as stated and as amended with adding the discussion item for the ordinance that was passed in the last meeting.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Now we move on to citizen participation. And the first person we have on the list is Mr. Rodolfo Aravalo. And if you could step up and state your name and your address, that'd be great.
Good afternoon. Name is Rodolfo Arevalo. My address is 19419 West 200th Street. I had two items that I wanted to inquire about. One is prior to most of your appointment, several months back, there was a concern raised about the loss of millions of gallons of water in the city. An item that evidently had been going on for at least 6 to 7 years. And I didn't know whether there's been a resolution to that item. I know it would be important given that you're getting ready to jump into the new budget process, and the ability to get those issues resolved would be helpful, I would assume. I don't expect an answer right now.
I can actually go ahead and give you, Mr. Burton, would you go ahead? We have been working on it, so I can go ahead and give you an answer right now on that. We don't typically do that, but I do have an answer for you on that one.
Sure. So we have been working on it. We have not resolved it. We still do have a loss problem we keep monitoring it. We still show about a 7 to 11% loss. We have not changed out all the meters. One is that the availability of meters. All the large meters that there were problems with have been changed out or fixed, except 3, if I remember correctly. And then some of the meters that, to give you an example, were improperly marked and not really accounted for was one meter that the fire department uses just to fill back up their trucks or practice. We were not tracking that. Now, we still have a problem, and we're working through it now. We're into residential meters, one block at a time, until we can eliminate the over-excessive loss.
And they do have a systematic process that they're moving through,
That's
auditing
correct,
each
yes.
one to make
And
sure we get.
is correct. It was very, very large losses every month, and we've reduced that. We also see that in the amount of revenue that we're starting to receive back in from that, so.
Thank you, sir.
Would it be possible at a future meeting to do, I don't wanna put you on the spot tonight
Oh,
because
that's fine.
none of us
I
were
can.
prepared for that, but like, just with a little bit more detail of some of the steps we've taken, some of the things we fixed, some of the things that are still outstanding, some of the things that are kind of in that tweener zone of if we do this, then it might do this, or.
Yeah,
you know.
we'll have to get that completed this month before the head of the operation leaves.
I'd be interested to hear that as well.
Yeah.
so.
Yes, thank you.
Next item occurred through the election process this year. And I know there were a lot of citizens that were concerned about how the council was going to be seated. And I know that at one point, the city attorney mentioned that there was a process to revise the election and appointment process. And I didn't know whether any of the council members were interested in revising it or asking the city attorney to change that so that we be more in line with most of the cities in the state of Kansas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list, we have Brett Holly.
My name's Brett Hawley, 21093 Millridge Street. On the 7th, I was driving down the highway in between 175th and 159th. And I seen this person I know who lives here walking barefoot back from the jail. And I mean, so his situation was that him and his brother got in a fight, and his brother originally went to jail because he was intoxicated. And so his mom got a protection order against the older son because of something to the effect of saying he said he was going to stab his brother. And I can't help but thinking about the time last year in February when I was at his house and I seen his mom holding a knife that's 6 inches and 14/16 long, and she said she was going to stab him. And the police were called, and I told them, and they said, "Where's the weed?" And I explained the story again. And they said, "Where's the weed?" Because his mom called and said we were smoking weed with his son. I don't smoke weed with teenagers. He was 17. I hang out with him because he's my friend's neighbor. His parents are horrible people. His dad had him trip on acid when he was 14. I seen his mom sit on his friend's lap when she was drunk, and she was like, "You're cute." And she looked at his other friend. She was like, "You're cute." She looked at her other friend and was like, "You're cute." And so I can't help but wonder why this person is in this situation that he's in, when really his mom should have been arrested, and they should have been both put in foster care. My mom has the exact same knife in the kitchen drawer at home. It's a Cutcomb knife, 6 inches, 14/16. It's not a knife you stab someone with, it's a knife you murder someone with. And I think she wrote a false police report about him saying that he was going to do that stuff to his brother because I seen his mom do it. I seen his mom hold the knife. I'll tell you which drawer it's in. And I also keep on thinking about this other situation. It's a what would you do situation if you were the manager of something and one of your employees was like assaulted by someone. And so makes me wonder what you would do if someone was assaulted at your work. Like, I mean, you have cameras. If I don't know. It's really hard. Basically, what I'm saying is I have a crime to report. This girl was assaulted at the pool. This guy pulled down her swimwear. And my problem with that is I was there, I was standing behind him. And on the back of my shirt is the name of the manager who was at the pool that day. And I keep on thinking about what he would do. Because at one point he walked up to me and he asked me, he said, hey, this girl said, you guys were taking pictures of her. Did that ever happen? And I was like, no, because to be honest, at the time, it sounded ridiculous to me. And so I keep on thinking about what you would do. And I keep on thinking about the moment he pulled down her pants, because I looked to my left, and I looked to my right, and I looked down, and I made a fist. And I wanted to punch him because he was standing there in front of me. I didn't know what he'd done. I wanted to punch him just because he was standing there. And I wish I did. And I wish the police would ask me about it, because I have no doubt in my mind that Jake Putnam wrote my name in that report. I have no doubt in my mind that with the cameras that are there at the swimming pool, that you would see me and that pervert who did that to that girl walking around, showing up together, leaving together. I'm just disappointed in my police department. Because that's really all I got.
Thanks.
Thank you, and I would encourage you, anytime you do feel like you've witnessed a crime, please call the police department and give it to them directly. That's the best thing that you can do in any situation like that, and let them handle it from there.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Steve Boswell, 504 North Jackson, Spring Hill. Missed last meeting, but from what I understood, there was something about a decency ordinance passed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was curious to know as how that even got on y'all's radar to begin with, as an issue that was necessary to address, first off. And second off, have we actually changed the language in the ordinance so that it did specifically make exceptions for breastfeeding and things like that, as to not put the city at risk for a possible lawsuit?
Since we have added that as a discussion item, I think we can discuss that at that time later on here in the meeting when we have that added as a, if that's
Okay,
a good deal.
okay, yes, okay. And the other thing I wanted to mention was you guys discussed about the chickens and the ordinance for the chickens. Did that go anywhere? Or is that also on a discussion item for tonight that I missed?
It's not on this agenda for today.
Okay. Have we gotten anywhere with that? As far as any ideas or planning, or is it just kind of stalled right now?
It will be on one of the future agendas in the very near future.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty much all I had questions on, trying to catch up from the meeting I missed. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Entertain a motion?
Entertain motion, yes.
I don't,
Entertain motion.
Mayor, I don't think it was amended.
Oh, the consent item, yes, you're correct. The
Okay,
agenda was
thank
amended,
you.
not the
Just
consent
wanted to
agenda.
clarify
So I
that,
entertain a
please.
motion to approve the consent.
Thank you.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal action. And the first item on the list is to consider the approval of construction contract bid for the 2022 intersection improvements with Leavenworth Excavating and Equipment Company, Inc. of Leavenworth, Kansas, in the amount of $1,020,000 $740.40. And Mr. Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm here this evening to consider approval of the construction contract bid, as you mentioned, for the 2022 intersection improvements with Leavenworth Excavating Equipment Company of Leavenworth, Kansas, commonly called Lexico, which is a lot less syllables. We actually have two intersections involved. They were separate projects from a design standpoint. We combined them to make a bigger construction contract to make administration less expensive and to get better bids. The project was bid at $1.02 million. The engineer's estimate was $1.085 million. The construction contract for the project's been reviewed by the city attorney before we put it out to bid. Two intersections are 199th and Webster, which is up here by the Quick Trip. There'll be a northbound right turn lane added to that, and a traffic signal, the city's first traffic signal. The second intersection is over at 193rd and Ridgeview. There will be a northbound left turn lane added there, going into the south side of the new middle school on 193rd Street. So we'll be working mostly on the east side of 199th and Webster. We'll be working taking all the area on the west side of Ridgeview for that physical work. The recommendations being, and there were actually three bids, Lexico, Lina Weaver, and Mega KC. They were all pretty well stacked together there, actually. A couple of the bids were only less than $20,000 apart, so very tight little bids. The funding for the project and the budgetary impact, the 199th and Webster intersection is this year's CARS project for the city. So of that project, CARS will be reimbursing the city for a maximum of $272,000, which we should get that because that's the less than 50% of that contract. So we'll get the 272. The rest of that project was programmed for capital improvements funding in the CIP. At 193rd and Ridgeview, that project came about, the city and the school district, when the school district came through with middle school 3, there were, the traffic study recommended a number of improvements. Most of those improvements were immediately adjacent to the school, the extension of 193rd Street to the west, a right turn lane on 191st, things like that, and the extension of 192nd Street as well. The school district, because the Ridgeview job was out on the city, on Ridgeview, that intersection and that turn lane was recommended. They didn't want to do that themselves. They felt it was more of a city function out there on the public streets, and it wasn't adjacent to the school construction. So the city and the school district had arrived in an agreement, which was passed over a year ago, I guess, where the school district will fund up to $270,000 of that improvement through a combination of their excise tax payments and additional funds directly from the school district up to the $270,000. The excise tax was about $230,000 for the middle school 3. Again, the remaining costs will be the responsibility of the city to be funded from the capital improvements program. With that, staff recommends the governing body accept the bid received from Lexico for the 2022 intersection improvement project in the amount of $1.020740.40. If approved, staff will prepare the construction contract documents, the actual contracts, for consideration at the next city council meeting, and then we'll get to work. There are several attachments. Their bid, the bid tabulation, are all in the packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
You said the left-hand turn lane on 193rd and Ridgeview is if you're going northbound.
Correct.
On Ridgeview, turning left, which would be west on 193rd. Okay.
Right. Even
Yeah,
there are a lot of times, even now.
Right there, it's a continuation of that turn.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, even now, but with the elementary school there and stuff, even now in the mornings, a lot of the left turners back up.
For sure.
Yeah.
Back up, and so it's a problem even at this point.
Yeah. I remember it vaguely from a year ago or whenever they went through it, but I was just making sure to verify where it was at. Is the 199th one, is that gonna change the orientation of the intersection much? I know there's an extension that goes into like a turn.
So, There's gonna be, it will look quite a bit different, as a part of the site improvements, right now, the public improvements contractor for the Quick Trip is, building northbound, they milled it today, actually. They're gonna do just a little bit of widening on the right, and then we're gonna essentially finish that. So when you come northbound on Webster and we get done, there'll actually be a left turn lane into the Quick Trip, there'll be a through lane, and there'll be a right lane, so it'll be 3 lanes wide going northbound. Coming north to west, if you will. And if you're coming off the highway, there'll be a through lane and a dedicated right turn lane into the Quick Trip as well. Coming on 199th down to the T intersection to the T will look the same way as it does now. It'll have a right turn and a left turn lane there. The other advantage to what we're doing in that intersection improvement is it's gonna be a pretty big radius. We've designed that right turn lane. Right now, there's so many big trucks, of course, that use that intersection, and they're all 20 feet out into the gravel, making those right turns, and we're gonna be moving that curb line and moving that all, make a much larger right turn lane radius to accommodate large trucks when you're going northbound to eastbound onto 199th.
Okay. That's great. Is it gonna hit us anyway? I know it's really early with the Webster project that we just got figured out, or at least we got the grant funding for. I know we don't even have designs for that yet, but, do you think there'd be any impact there or any concerns or worries about that?
No, Webster
As far as-
North up to 191st?
Yeah, and as far as like scheduling.
They're not really, no, this doesn't take very long to build, right? They're not really connected directly, so it's not a problem. The only thing that's gonna be a long lead time, and the reason the project was more expensive than we budgeted over a year ago, is the traffic signal. Traffic signals have just gotten ridiculously expensive, and the lead time on getting some of the signal equipment is getting really long. So they'll have the turn lane done this summer, but the signal won't be able to show up, and it probably won't be done till December. It's where the cabinets in particular, sometimes the poles and mast arms are taking up to 18 and 20 weeks, even after shop drawings and everything. And right now, I guess the signal cabinets are 18 weeks out. So, by the time you've even done a shop drawing, got a signal cabinet ordered, you get to sit around and wait for, several months just to get the materials. So they'll put the underground in, have all the conduit and the bases and everything, and then we'll sit around all fall waiting for traffic signal poles to show up.
Gotcha. Last question. It's about $1 million, give or take, rounded. So I just wanna make sure I got the splits right. It's 272 for cars, 270 for the school district, and about 479 for us.
Correct.
Okay.
Will there be any, I'm assuming there won't be any downtime, obviously not at the intersection, that would be detrimental, but any of the turning lanes, they won't be closed for any amount of time?
Not extensively. Of course, there's not a turn lane up on Ridgeview, but right now, but they'll pretty much be working off to the side of the road. There will be some short periods when we, mill and overlay the existing paving and do those types of things to finish it off, but that happens pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The
Typically,
ability to turn a certain direction won't be shut down for a drastic amount?
no, not for any huge length of time. We do have to get out there. The good thing is, we have to get out into the pavement quite a bit, at 199th and Webster on 199th to pick up, an existing box. It's a curb inlet right there right now. But the nice thing is that's it's a left and a right and a through now, so it's a wide piece of pavement. So we might have to shut down the left turn lane, but put the lefts and the rights in the southbound through. But we've got some extra, while they're physically digging that out and extending it to make it safe. So you might lose a left turn lane on 199th on the Webster, but you could still turn left. You just don't have a dedicated left turn.
Sure.
But all of that's relatively, short duration stuff.
Any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the bid as stated.
I move to approve the bid received from Lexico for the 2022 intersection improvements project in the amount of $1,020,740.40.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is to consider the approval of resolution number 2022-R-08, resolution directing the notice of public hearing on special assessments for Dayton Creek Phase 4 Special Benefit District. And Mr. Ellsworth, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tyler Ellsworth with the Kutak Rock Law Firm, the city's bond counsel. You are being asked to consider this evening a resolution setting a public hearing on June 9th to consider the levy of assessments in the Dayton Creek Phase 4 Benefit District. And this is really just a function of the statutory benefit district process. When benefit district financing is used, the project improvements are constructed, and then when they're completed, we work with staff to figure out what the final costs are and figure out how that breaks down into the assessments which are levied against the homes, the property owners in the district. And in order to levy those assessments, it's required for us to give notice to the homeowners that there's going to be this hearing, conduct a public hearing in case anyone has any concerns or questions, and then proceed with levying the assessments. So the resolution before you this evening just sets that public hearing for June 9th and authorizes our firm to work with staff to get notice out in advance of that public hearing.
Gotcha.
Are these homes that are already built, or is it the new phase?
It is the sixth plat, so this is the phase with the elementary school in the middle. So I actually drove through there this evening, and by my count, there were about 17 completed homes and 18 homes that are under construction. So probably 35 homes total, either completed or being built, out of a total of 64 in this phase of the subdivision.
Okay.
And if they're not finished, will the developer pay those fees?
Yes, yeah, whoever the owner is at the time the tax bills go out is responsible for those special assessments. And actually, even though about 35 homes have been built or are being built, the developer, I think, owns probably less than 20 of those lots. So most of those lots in that phase have been sold. Yeah, they're really moving.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Does it doesn't hit them with like a big lump sum right up front, right? It's spread out, or how does that work?
That's a good question. The homeowners will get a letter. So on June 9th, we'll have the public hearing. The public hearing will be concluded, and at that same meeting, you'll consider an ordinance levying the assessments. And so typically, we give the property owners about 30 days to prepay without interest. And so at that point, they could make a single lump sum payment if they wanted to do that. And they wouldn't have any assessments against the property. The alternative is if they don't choose to prepay, then the city includes that amount and finances it in a 20-year bond issue, and they pay every year on their property tax bill. It's going to depend on what the bond market does between now and mid-July when we actually take bids for that bond financing. But right now it looks like the annual assessment per home is probably going to be in the $2,300 to $2,500 a year amount. And I think that's probably consistent with the level of assessments on the prior phases, because that was very important to the developer in this case.
I was gonna say, it almost sounds lower than the previous one.
It may be a little bit lower. And the immediately prior phase was, I think, both the cottages and the estates. So those are a little bit different. They're on the smaller side and on the larger side. It's probably comparable, I would guess.
I would say that phase one was, I think, closer to $3,000.
Really?
Yeah, from what I remember. They were pretty high, weren't they?
The total tax bill. We're just talking about the assessment.
Yeah, I'm talking about the extra assessment. It was pretty high. It was in the
Yeah, it wasn't
25 to
like-
2,800.
Overall total tax bill was that, this is just the assessment side.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. No, that was like 8,000 or 9,000 total back then. So
Okay. Yeah, I could certainly check on that.
yeah, no, it sounds to me that sounded lower than what I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, if that's the case, that's good news.
And I would imagine that the homeowners were made aware when they purchased the property that there would be a benefit district and they would be liable for that at some point whenever it was completed.
Right. My understanding, I mean, the city's not a party to that, but my understanding is that the developer has that in their closing paperwork and tries to educate those homeowners.
Any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Move to approve resolution number 2022 R-R-08, directing notice of public hearing on special assessments for Dayton Creek Phase 4 Special Benefit District.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is to consider the approval of resolution number 2022-R-09, adopting the speaker's protocol and public comment and period and public hearing for the city of Spring Hill, Kansas. And we'll have Mr. Lowe come up and speak on that, but I do want to say something real quick on that. All the neighboring communities around us have a speaker protocol for council meetings and any other meetings that the governing body or committees at their meetings, and we just don't have one in place. So this is not something trying to put extra rules or extra things on a bunch of things. It's just this is ultimately a business meeting, and so we need to be able to conduct it in a good manner and being civil, and then also being respectful to the citizens that want to speak. So we encourage public speaking, and we really do want to hear from you guys. We encourage it, and we'll get into a few of the details, but one of the things, I looked at a lot of the communities around us, and a lot of the communities have a 2 or 3 minute time limit, and I extended that to 5 minutes because I think I would rather hear from, if somebody has a little bit more to say, I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you have to say and don't want to limit it to a really short time. But we do have to keep the meeting moving so we can, do the people's business and get everything done that we need to get done in a timely manner, and then also be respectful to the staff and the governing body, and then everyone else attending the meeting. Sir, if you want to.
Hey everyone, Spencer Lau. I am here for Chuck Dunlay. He couldn't make it tonight, but just extend his apologies for not being able to make it out. The mayor covered this very well, actually. So this kind of steps us in line with other municipalities in the area. This is designed to encourage our citizens to get up and speak and give you all and our staff their thoughts and opinions, and share those in the most efficient and straightforward way, and allow you all to interact with them in an efficient and straightforward way in return. So I can go over parts of this if you'd like. If you have specific questions, you can just throw those out at me. If you've read it and you like it, you can cut me off whenever you'd like. I don't need to overspeak if you don't want me to, but generally it's a 5-minute limit for speakers. Groups can kind of consolidate and allow a representative to speak for up to 10 minutes. This would apply to city council, but any other public meeting, so planning commission, for example. And it directs speakers to speak to whoever's chairing the meetings, the mayor or the chair of whatever committee there is. And then that person running the meeting can defer to city staff or invite them to speak, which is, we actually saw a perfect example of it tonight. So unintentionally, everyone here followed our new protocols pretty perfectly. So thank you to everyone for that, and thank you to you all for running that well. But if you have any questions, let me know.
We didn't actually always allow speaking at like planning commission and stuff too, did we? This is making it so everybody always has a citizen participation,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. And
So I thought that was good because it makes it so we always have something, Other than that, the only other question I guess I had is, we don't have a specific number of people that signed up to when we change it to 3 minutes, or is it just kind of an announcement we'll make if there's?
No, I had thought about that because a lot of communities have, if you have 10 or 15 people, they the governing body has, the ability to shorten it down to smaller minutes. I would love to just have everybody be able to have the same amount of time just to make it equal across the board.
Okay.
And if there's anything you have to say on that, go ahead.
No, you covered that well.
Yeah.
So
I just, like I say, I think it's important for especially the public to know we don't want to squelch anybody's time to talk. We want to hear from everybody, and I'd love if more people would show up to meetings and come speak and give us your opinions, give us your input, give us things you would like to see happen in the community. We definitely welcome that, and we're an open ear.
I'm a policy and procedure kind of personality, and I think this is going to help us hear the citizens in a more organized, and you said the word efficient, I like that. It's gonna allow us to hear them in a more efficient way. There have been issues in the past of not being able to hear people participating because they're, commenting from the back of the room, and that doesn't allow everybody to hear. And so having an organized protocol where people know, here's what we can do, and it's not just for us, it's for them. So now they don't walk in not knowing, how do I do this? We can have something written right there for them. And this is how you do that. It makes it easier, I think, for people to participate and less scary.
All right.
I think it's important that you're good, I don't have any questions for you. I think it's important that we provide the message with this, that it is not in any way intended to limit or restrict public comments.
No, absolutely not. In fact, I'm hoping it has the opposite effect. I'm hoping.
I hope so too. This is designed and intended to establish a baseline and ground rules and some boundaries of what is acceptable and what the procedure is and how you go about doing that and what the expectations are. And I think that is what the intent is here. And I think it's important for us to make sure that we let the citizens know that that is what our intention is here with this. The only two things that really stuck with me on it was that I like that it essentially requires public comment at every regular meeting. If I was writing it, I would write it so that it would include special meetings and work sessions as well, but that's at the will of the governing body is what it says in here, which I'm okay with, but it's ideally I would like to see it cover everything, but and then the other thing is with the interaction. I think we don't need to be incredibly rigid on that piece. I think there are simple situations and simple solutions that come up when people come and speak publicly.
And I think and not to interrupt you, but I think you guys saw that tonight. Typically I'm not going to go back and forth with somebody, but Mr. Arvalo, he had a question and I knew the answer right away to that. So I wanted to go ahead and provide that answer to him and also any of the public listening saying, hey, yes, I do have an answer for you right now. We're working on it. And here's the solution we're working on.
Yes, and that was a great example of how that can work even with this type of policy in place. I think the problems with that become when there are questions or issues addressed that the staff or the governing body is not prepared to talk about intelligently yet, which I think is fair for all of them involved to not want to speak on those items. And the other piece of it being that it just gets abused sometimes. And I've seen where it gets disruptive with that abuse and that becomes problematic. And we don't want to set a very rigid policy that limits everything because of some small amount of abuse instances. But I think that's where a lot of that comes from, is making sure that we're staying within the boundaries. And so I feel like that's good, but I think there'll be some wiggle room with the public interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, same thing with when Mr. Steve Boswell was up here. There's a couple things, I answered directly to him. I'm not always going to do that. And I don't think it's appropriate for me to always do that. But if there is something I can answer quickly, I'll do my best to answer it right away. Any other questions related to that? Anybody? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I move to approve resolution number 2022-R-09, adopting the speaker's protocol, public comment period, and public hearings for the city of Spring Hill, Kansas.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is to consider the acceptance of the annexation petition A-000021-2022. Gayton Properties LLC and Dan Quinn and Mr. Burton, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. So this is a the next two items are hand in hand. This is actually accepting of the petition for 73.7 acres. It'd be the northwest corner of 199th and Ridgeview. Most of you know it's directly west across from the high school. There's a brick house there on the corner of ranch-styled home. The first is the petition, and they've submitted petition, and staff recommends accepting the petition. In the diagram of it, it showed that the house is excluded from it, but since then, it is not excluded. And the Exhibit A represents non-exclusion of it, so it is the house as well. Just so that all the paperwork is correct, it was just that one drawing was incorrect.
Is it all the same property owner?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, did he purchase that property?
Yes.
Okay, so
The house.
the
as well.
whole rectangle is now included.
That's correct.
and the developer. owns
Yes, and
all
if
of
you look at Exhibit A, it shows Centerline and Ridgeview all the way down to 199th Street. Point of beginning and over.
88.
Are there any other questions in relation to that?
I didn't realize it wasn't part of the city of Spring Hill, that it was a township.
Right, and so that's one of the reasons that the roundabout took a little longer is because it was through Side County. So the other side of the street is not in the city limits as well yet. So now we are 2 and 2, basically.
I think I read somewhere in the review sheet too that it said it kind of fills one of our gaps.
It does fit.
We
It
have kind of a
starts
checkerboard.
Yeah, it starts filling in gaps, which has been a goal. And with this piece of property, it does help start filling in those gaps. Now, the next piece to the west is still out of the city limits, and like I said, the properties across or to the south of 199th are still, but they'll eventually come as we work with property owners and developers. It is though, I better explain, it is adjacent to city property, so it just takes, on the next would be an ordinance, acceptance of petition, and then the next step would be an ordinance. So adjacent does not need to go to the Board of County Commissioners. It is not considered an island annexation. It will help facilitate some patrol factors in there as well, with a roundabout and things of that nature with the police division. Because it is being annexed to the center line of the streets.
Any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the petition.
I move to approve the petition of annexation, right? A dash 0000021-2022, filed by Gayton Properties LLC.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is, as Mr. Burton said, the considered approval of annexation ordinance number 2022-08, Gayton Properties. Dan Quinn.
Yes. The same property, and this is the second step of it, where this gives approval that we would file with the county in that the city has adopted ordinance 08 in accepting that property into the incorporated city limits. We will be supplying it with sewer. Water is Water One. And we'll take over the maintenance of the streets, and we have an agreement anyway, whoever's going by with a snowplow keeps it down. So that's been just the way it's been for years and years and years anyway. But we will be actually liable for the streets and all, and then, of course, zoning and building permits and things like that, and police patrol of the area now. And it being in the city limits, they're no longer allowed to fire fire off, and practice shooting and things of that nature. I don't know, I'm not saying this property did, but they were allowed to, being in the county, and now that eliminates that. And as was mentioned, it starts filling in some of the gaps within the community, which that's our goal. We really trying to fill in areas instead of annexing more and more on the outlying areas, so.
We've covered most of them, but is there any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
I move to approve ordinance number 2022-08, authorizing the annexation of land located at northwest corner of 199th and Ridgeview Road.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
It needs to be roll call vote,
Nope,
please.
you are correct. It's an ordinance. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Thank you. Mrs. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. North,
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mayor Berkey.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consider the approval of selection of the city's medical, dental, and vision provider for July 2022 to June 2023. Renewal period to include the contribution split between city and employee. And Mrs. Jones, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good to speak to you. So yes, I am here to bring broach the topic of the selection of the city's medical, dental, and vision provider for the new plan year. And so a bit of the background, as usual, I won't necessarily read this verbatim, but at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But the general background on this is that, as you all know, owning your own businesses and even in just the working landscape, this landscape for the employers has changed drastically with regard to competition and for employees and retention of employees. So that is the start off for this, for the background, because generally speaking, the city has been very generous with what it offers for benefits. We've tried every year to make sure that we're offering the most competitive plans with regard to the services that are provided by the providers, as well as the overall cost for the plans, to include the deductibles and premiums and copays. But with the things that have happened over the last couple of years, we realized that kind of sticking with that historical view of splitting the cost with the employees, even combining that with us looking for plans that are more cost effective, just isn't going to be enough to help us remain competitive as we retain our employees and even recruit and bring in new employees. So the analysis you'll see included in the packet of information, it'll show the different plans that were provided to us by our partner here, CBiz, and the companies that provided rates and quotes for us. I will start off by saying that VSP remains steady, and it's such a little amount that, I still want to point that out, they remain steady. Delta Dental, however, you can see is very popular with our employees, so the ratios did increase by about 12% for them, and that's because of the total loss ratio for Delta Dental did go up. So that did see a slight increase of about 12%, but still a relatively reasonable amount per month based off of the employees that have elected that. So the main thing to consider at this time is going to be our medical plans. Currently, the city is utilizing Humana. Humana's rates did increase across the board. But even with that increase, I do want to point out that they are still competitive and low compared to what the city has had in the past before we were able to make these kind of changes ourselves versus being in the pool that we were in previously. But with that said, the renewal cost for Humana is averaging about $55,112.48 a month. United Healthcare, they came in at about $50,805.25 a month. And Cigna plus Oscar, that is a new plan that Cigna has developed for small employers specifically. There's really no noticeable difference between the provider and networks between the regular Cigna. It's just specifying from a marketing perspective that this is just for smaller groups. With that plan, it's averaging about $41,570.63 per month. As part of the analysis of this first year being with CBIZ and under Humana, we did a survey, or completed a survey, I should say, in the first quarter of this year regarding the medical, dental, and vision benefits. And as the amount showed, Delta Dental, they were very happy with that, and as you can see, utilize that a lot. They were happy with their vision as well. The results did yield that the employees are not satisfied with their contribution rate for the premiums, nor are they satisfied with the total out-of-pocket costs for their plans, and that includes premiums, deductibles, and copays. So with that said, the city was considering what things do we have in our tool belt that can help us with the results of that survey as compared to what some of the other municipalities are able to do. Looking at within a 15 to 20 mile radius of the city, I was looking at the benefits offered by some of those municipalities, and they were able to either offer on-site clinics, or they were able to offer more of contributions towards the employees' premiums per month. And so while we are not necessarily able to have our own on-site clinic, and we don't necessarily have the quote-unquote buying power that some of those other municipalities have to even get our rates lower than what they are, what we do have is the ability to pay 100% of the employee's costs for benefits. And so on average, if looking at what the current employee base have elected for their plans, that's about $10,000 a month more that the city would be paying. And then taking it a step further from there and considering, well, if we paid 100%, there's a likelihood that some employees would either come to the city for their insurance or switch to a different level plan. So it was estimated about an increase of about $20,000 a month if that were to happen. One part of, as we look through and decide what we want to do with the plans and contribution rates, one thing to consider is that if we do switch from Humana, the city will not have its employee assistance program included. Currently, Humana provides that. It is all telehealth, but it's completely included with the plan. If that happens, it does go away. We attempted to get quotes from New Directions, which is who the city had previously, but they have now since partnered with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they only quote if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they declined to quote with us. So in terms of the employee assistance program, information is included in this review packet for Empathia. And so they include either 3 in-person visits or 6 in-person visits, and then unlimited telehealth and plenty of other benefits as well. So depending on the amount of in-person visits will dictate what the quote amount, what the monthly rate is, not monthly, I'm so thinking about medical here. The yearly rate is going to be. So it's $1,728 for 3 visits and $2,400 for 6 visits. So the options at this point is, and I tried my very best to make this as simple as possible, but even just talking through this, you can see how complicated it can be. But the options are, we can select Humana, which means we keep them, and obviously we keep our Delta Dental and our VSP. Then the decision becomes, okay, do you approve the city paying 100% of those premiums? Or do we keep it at the 90-80 split between the employee and the city's contribution? The next option is we could change to United Healthcare, again, keeping Delta Dental and VSP. And then the decisions at this point advance out a little bit because we need to decide, are we going to approve the city paying 100%, or are we going to keep the 90-80 split? Then, in addition, we need to determine what we're going to do about the employee assistance program, if we're going to elect the 3 in-person visits per year or the 6. And then the third option is the Cigna plus Oscar with Delta Dental and VSP. Again, same considerations of either paying 100% of the premiums or sticking with 90-80 for the splits, and then approving either 3 visits or 6 visits for the EAP program. I mean, obviously, there is always the option for the governing body to request more information and table this for another meeting. But I do want to point out, if we did that, we would be needing a special meeting to allow adequate time for open enrollment and to make this effective July 1st. So in terms of the last thing to consider is the budgetary impact, which I stated earlier on. I'm looking at the premiums. Again, if the employees stayed where they are, the medical, dental, and vision costs to the city can range anywhere from $44,393.28 to $57,935.13. Again, depending on which provider we go with, and then that additional up to $2,400 for the EAP, depending on if we do 3 or 6 visits. So I did not put a specific recommendation in here. I stated for the governing body to review the attached information and direct me as to what you think is appropriate for the city. I do want to state that based on the survey results from the employees, the best option in my mind in terms of this information is to go with the Cigna Oscar option. And that's also the lower plan, and that wasn't the motivating factor, but that plan will give 2 different options for employees to have lower deductibles. They'll have lower primary care copays and specialty visit copays, and they will have lower copays on prescriptions. So if you look at those 3 areas, the Cigna plus Oscar plan does come ahead of Humana and United Healthcare.
So that's option 3.
And that also, even with the extra 2 things, that would still put it lower than all the other, than the other 2.
Correct. But I wanted to point out that that's not why I said that one. It
Yeah.
was because of the other factors.
In your survey, did it say at all that they wanted to keep Humana, or did they not care?
No.
Or that wasn't really a factor?
That wasn't really a factor.
So if we switch companies, that's not a huge factor.
Correct.
As long as they're keeping their.
Yeah, as long as they keep their benefits.
Benefits
And then
they want.
if we do 100%, are we still looking at doing the empath, what's it called?
Well,
Empath,
we would have
yeah,
to.
the EAP basically?
Yeah, we would have to do the EAP if we switch from Humana anyway.
Oh, no matter what, okay.
Right, that's included.
You gotta do that for United and
The 2 and
the
3.
Oscar.
Okay,
Those 2 plans, you gotta do the added.
they add the EAP, okay.
The other one.
I just didn't know, because it was down here, if it was only if we only did the split. If we did 100, I wasn't sure if you still had to do that.
Yeah, we still do
Okay.
it.
Are the figures that you're providing, like the average monthly, and then also for the new plans, is that before any split is cut? That's total cost, right?
Right.
Not like the city's 90% portion.
That's total.
Okay, so that's total, and that's what it would be, and then if we decided to go with a cut, we would cut it from there.
Right, and I will say that in past years, I was able to provide what that split would be, but right now, I was not able to do that because the providers were waiting until decide who we would go with, and then they would
Yeah.
work with figuring out the split.
So you said the budgetary impact compared to what we have right now would be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, depending on how many people were.
Per month, right?
The $10,000,
month.
the $10,000 is, it was actually about 9,008 something. I just rounded it up to 10. That's an exact number based off of the current employees that we have and the current level of plan selection.
Staying the same.
Exactly.
Okay.
They stay the same. Then it was just, okay, well, there's a probability that people are going to switch levels and
Yeah.
in different plan tiers, and so I just doubled that amount.
Because if it gets covered at 100%, a family.
I take the best
That's a
one.
great deal.
Yeah, why wouldn't?
If you're a married couple that's split, from one employer and 1 plus kids, and then you can go to a family plan that's covered at 100% and drop your premium on that second job one, which is an incredible benefit.
Yeah.
That's also though using our existing costs,
Yeah,
where if you look and you so choose Cigna, it's already
Quite a bit lower.
yeah.
it's quite a bit
Yeah.
lower, sorry. So that's what I'm saying.
How many people are not,
Tried to be,
do we have like a number of how many aren't
I can tell you
currently
that,
using it?
yeah, as of right now, the numbers are not the same for each of them because they're all, you can choose one or the other, so you don't have to be on dental, vision, or Humana. So right now, though, we have 38 employees that have Humana. We have 41 that have dental and 39 that have vision.
And how many total employees do we have?
Actually, and I apologize, there's been some changes and things going on, and I've really lost track of the exact number, but as far as employee eligible, I would say it'd be between 47 and 50.
So another 6 to 8 that aren't maybe using it now. Yeah, so it's not a huge number.
So on the current plan, we're paying the 57,000. Is that the current amount that we're paying now? 57,935.
No, you're talking about on the budgetary impact. No, I'm saying that's what it would be.
50.
Right.
Switching the
53.8 is what I have
53,
for
yeah.
current.
53.8.
Yeah.
And so the new plan, if we went 100% of the new plan, would be approximately 49,000. So you're saving so are we saving the $4,000, and is that taken into account with the $10,000 that it would add onto the budget?
No, that's without
No.
10,000.
No, but that, okay.
But it's a big benefit that we don't have now.
Right.
The biggest thing that I would think about is
Right.
the fact that if you are gonna jump from 90 to 100, like you don't want to go back on that. So
Yep.
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
something.
Get away.
Yeah. So
It
I also
has
feel like that's
before.
what's that?
It has before.
Oh, has it? Well, and I'm not saying it's impossible. That would just be a hard sell.
Glenda, you know, back in the day, we received 100% and
Yeah.
reduced because.
I'm
of
just saying that
cost.
would be a hard sell, so we don't want to make that decision lightly to,
Right,
you know.
that's correct.
But I'm honestly 10% doesn't seem like a large amount, but you're saying that some of the surveys were saying that they,
That is
We're not
it was a big issue.
yeah. So that's why I'm saying I would be for that. I feel like 90 is an odd percentage, but I haven't worked in a whole lot of other areas to have the knowledge there, so I would be all for covering the 100. I think that makes it easy and clean, and then going for a less expensive plan, you know, from a budgetary impact makes sense, but also it's what the employees are saying they want because their costs, their premiums, things like that are gonna be lower as well with that plan, is that right?
It will be, but I just want to point out that it's also similar services with the plan as well. Because there are plans that we can get that are going to have lower monthly costs or other factors, but then when you look at,
Lose some of your benefits.
right, you're going to lose some of your benefits.
And I'm sorry, I said lower premiums, I meant like the expenditures that would come out of the covered person's pocket. Those expenditures are going to be lower with this plan. Did I hear you say that correctly?
Right, yeah, and,
Okay.
yes.
And to
Some aspects that are lower.
clarify what I was saying earlier, I was like, if we're switching to this plan and it's saving us $4,000 a month, and then our additional of covering 100% would be $10,000, would the budgetary impact be $6,000 since we're saving $4,000? Or was it $10,000 on top of that savings?
No, I mean, that is correct, but again, we're making some assumptions that people are going to stay
Right.
at the same
Right.
level, so.
Well, and with the 10,000 increase based off of, even on the high end, we're still only going up like 10% with adding all those extra benefits of the 100%. So it's still not a huge increase from previous year's costs.
And ultimately, the goal is to stay competitive with the Olathes, with the Overland Parks, with the big cities that can offer them more pay. If we can offer them better benefits, it'd be an incentive to try to not only keep our employees, but also draw other employees.
Right, and it was just a matter of what can we do that is gonna make the most impact for our employees without it being, for lack of a better word, astronomical.
Yeah, breaking the bank.
And
when
you,
you
I
go
know
through-
you touched on it or said it before, but you feel good that the Oscar plan doesn't give us like a significant change in benefits that are available, because I mean it's
Like the provider network is pretty much the same.
it's a pretty different cost there.
Yes, and that, you know, obviously I'm not with Cigna Oscar, so I don't
Yeah.
know. But my assumption is because it's brand new and being offered out to the smaller employers, they're trying to gain some momentum with it. And then after that first year, I may be back up here saying some other
say-
provider, so.
Are they gonna, you know, a year from now, realize that they lost the boat on that and, you know, have to jack that one up a lot?
That could happen.
So I have a question. When you go through the hiring process with a new employee, do you have a lot of employees coming in to apply for positions that are very focused on the benefits package, or are they mostly looking at the pay?
It really depends on what stage of life they're in. So there was an interview today that was done for one of our maintenance worker positions, and his questions were around the pay and the benefits. So it just really depends.
Okay.
have you seen other organizations that are going to the 100% covered side of things as an increased benefit because of what the job market is right now, and like essentially your options to try and attract more talent or retain the talent that you have is to provide more salary or provide more benefits? Are you seeing them switch to that? Because I would 100%. I don't know that I've ever seen much before. I'm sure it exists, but
Well, I would say not necessarily have I seen a lot of the 100% personally, but what I have seen is the increase in benefits. So it could be they're paying an extra, and I don't want to use the word stipend, but just a monthly figure of maybe $150 for wellness to people. Or maybe they are able to offer just lower rates in general because they have more employees and they can have that more buying or negotiating power with the providers.
yeah.
And then I know personally that some of the local cities around here have clinics on site, and that helps out as well. I mean,
Provide them service in-house so they don't have to go pay for it.
yeah, I mean,
No
I
problem.
personally utilize that because of where my husband works,
Yeah.
so.
It's kind of like, it goes back to your toolkit, what you're able to do.
Right.
Is there any options for, and maybe it depends on the size, or, that we are, but is there any kind of option for like HSA funding, matching, anything like that? Just,
We could choose to do that. Again, the thing with the HSA funding matching is like, what can you do that's gonna be really impactful though? Because again, we just use a number of 50, right? And then you have, say you're just gonna give $100, right there, that's already $5,000. So it just really, and $100 really isn't that much when it comes to HSA, because those are generally the high deductible plans. And so you wanna do something that's gonna be impactful.
okay. It sounds like the employees want less of their, not just the monthly premiums, but, their actual doctor visits and hitting that deductible, that type of funds to be lessened or be lower. So I didn't know if maybe an HSA would be a point of conversation for something like that.
And ultimately, like we stated, we're trying to stay competitive because it's a very competitive market out there. And we want to keep functioning as a city and functioning with excellence. And to do that, we need to be able to keep our employees and be able to hire the ones that we need. So, and draw them in.
And we're also trying not to just pay these absorbent rates of wages.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we have something additional to offer, and maybe the employee, instead of choosing another jurisdiction that's paying, let's say, $30 an hour, they will come to us at $28 an hour. Because the budgetary impact of keep giving higher and higher salaries, that never goes away. Never goes down. So in
That was
situations.
my thought. This is an annual thing, that a salary you can't lower, but this.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Sure.
unless they retire or leave.
And that's where my question about employees actually looking at the total benefit package, when I hire someone, I try to really outline and show them, here's the pay, here's the benefits, and that all totals this much, but I didn't know how much
Yeah.
people actually pay attention to that, or if you kind of lose them at that point.
No, I mean, that discussion is had. I send out, when I'm sending out the offer, I send out this information ahead of time, what our plans cost and what that contribution is. So they have that whole lead up time to actually coming in to review it so that we can talk about it more in depthly. And then I broach the topic again during orientation with them. So it is discussed. And these are just the results of the survey that we took. And I did have I only had a couple employees come to talk to me in person about it, but the survey showed kind of where they stand on that.
Where would the budget come from for the budgetary impact? What pot would it come out of?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information. No, I was gonna say I don't have the information because we haven't had like the budget conversations to look at that. But I was gonna say my assumption would be the general fund, but I will let them confirm that.
I assumed it would be general fund, but I don't wanna assume if that's not correct.
The department that I forgot we have we have water and wastewater as well, and they have to fund themselves, so general fund on the major portion of it.
Are there any other questions?
And you don't have a recommendation, except for just the signal?
Kinda did.
Yeah,
The employees want
yeah.
one.
Well, based off of the survey results and based off of the other factors of the cost, as well as being able to keep the services the same or close and similar, I would go with Cigna Oscar.
Okay.
I mean, I think with,
I agree.
yeah, we're paying about 54 monthly now. We used to be paying 62. If we go with the Oscar plan, it'll probably be close to a wash.
That's what I'm saying.
It might be a little bit more,
maybe
but
10%
it's
more.
it's not gonna be bad, I don't think.
And if the benefits and
And you're
I was
bumping
gonna
up
say,
to
and if the-
100%,
if
so
the
you're not
employees'
splitting it
costs go
anymore,
down.
so they're gonna love that.
yeah.
Only thing I worry about is having to take the 100% away at some point. If costs get absorbent or crazy, or, who knows what will happen. And because the price difference is so much, I'm worried that the price is gonna be a lot different next year. So
Right.
we'll see. I'm willing to risk it on the first year though.
Yeah, well, I think even just a small thing like boosting morale just around the workplace, if you know that your employees, that the city really is looking out for their employees and is trying to do the best thing for them, I think that'll, they'll work happier, they'll work better and get more stuff done, just overall
It's
affect everything.
Like the job market's, this has affected my organization incredibly right now too. So we've been talking about these kinds of things a lot, and the job market to attract and retain talent is incredibly difficult right now in all walks of jobs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Any other questions or discussion? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the
Um,
plan.
Can we just say the number?
well, we still gotta
It's
do
item.
do you wanna do the 3 or the 6 on the EAP?
Yeah.
Mm.
If we're gonna do 100, I think 3 is probably
Yeah, I
fine.
think 3 too.
I would be fine with that.
Yep.
You want to give him a chance to ask a question?
We can't since it's already
Yeah.
discussion if we follow.
Do you,
No, you're good.
would you accept a motion that just says option number 3? Okay.
Maybe wanna like tack on like with
The-
the 3-day EAP. plan or
Empathia
something
and
like
the
that.
Three
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
the AP program.
I don't see that on the in person. I don't have that on mine. If somebody else wants to, they can. I don't have the 3 EAP. All right, pulled up.
That's this, right? Just this.
Oh, at the bottom of that, okay. Okay. I move to approve option number 3 for the 2022-2023 plan year with 3 in-person visits per year.
And
At
this
100%.
contribution
And
percentage?
then the 100%.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry, at 100% coverage by the city for the employee of the premium.
Second.
Did you get all that?
Is that good? Is that good, Glenda?
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the next item on the agenda is the discussion item that was added, and it was discussing the ordinance that was passed at the last council meeting.
Thank you.
And so, we'll open that up for questions and discussions, and
I guess I just wanted to see if we could give a background of kind of why we did what we were doing, and I'll let you kind of take the
yeah,
reins on
yeah, and just so the public knows, this was not just some whim that we all of a sudden decided, oh, we need more laws, we need more regulations. It was not at all that. And Chief Henson, would you mind giving some background to the initial thing that kind of started a little bit of it?
I
To
was
the
gonna
extent
say,
to the extent that you
with the
can, yes.
legal,
I know there's certain things you can't.
Keep it within the lines.
Well, yes, I mean, actually, this discussion started well over a year ago, when Frank Jenkins was our city attorney. We identified some areas in the ordinances that we had had some calls for service in which we had no recourse. And we had citizens and residents that were asking for us to do something. And we had nothing on the books to allow us to do something. Not that we would, obviously, sometimes the best thing is to let somebody know that it is unlawful and give somebody a warning, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. But there are some circumstances where it is necessary to file charges. And we did have a neighborhood dispute in which nudity was displayed, and we had no recourse. We attempted to do it through disorderly conduct, but it did not fit the definition. We've had another case where there was some exposure, and it did not fit the indecent liberties statute because it was not done, nor we could not prove that sexual gratification was the reason that they were doing it.
And I can speak a little bit more. It was a gentleman exposed himself in public to someone, so go ahead.
Sure. So much like the other policy or other ordinance that was passed on urinating and defecating in public, not that we have a lot of folks doing that, but we have had people who are intoxicated and things of that nature who are relieving themselves in places that are not appropriate. None of these ordinances were to address small children or, women doing the natural thing they do with children, young infants. None of it was for that purpose.
Yeah.
It was addressed for those who are truly trying to disrupt
Absolutely.
the community.
And we as, I personally am a big supporter of breastfeeding. My wife breastfed our kids. I was as a kid as well. I think it's one of the best things a mother can do for a young child. So I think it's great. I think we as a city overall, we support that, women's right to breastfeed wherever she wants to. It's federally protected. It's protected by the state. And I know some people questioned why the language was not included in the ordinance. And it was made aware that it did not need to be included in it because it is already federally and state protected. And most of the communities that have that wording in their ordinance passed the ordinance before it was federally and state protected. And so they had to put that clause in there saying, this doesn't affect breastfeeding or children under 10, whereas now, since it's only been relatively recently that it's become federally and state protected. And so now it's not necessary to put that wording in there because it is already federally and state protected.
Yes, and I mean, I don't, from our perspective, I believe with strong confidence that the officers on the road definitely understand the spirit and intent of the ordinance. And it has nothing to do with breastfeeding.
Yeah, and I do publicly want to apologize. I just, when the ordinance came up, I knew that those laws, that breastfeeding was already federally and state protected, and so I didn't even think to ask questions about it because I knew it was already protected, but I do apologize that I know some did not know that it was already federally and state protected, so I apologize that we as governing body didn't make that more clear when it was presented. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I 100% agree. I don't think any of the six of us had any intent that this was meant to be anti-breastfeeding mother.
No,
in
absolutely.
any way, shape, or form. And I think all six of us are very protective and positive and supportive for mother's right to be able to do that. So I think it's unfortunate that it got interpreted that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it is our responsibility to make sure that those types of interpretations don't happen. So I'm sorry that happened, and we will do a better job of making sure we get clear information to the public. I think it is, mothers in Spring Hill are very well protected with what we did and what is in place now. If we have a strong outcry from the public that they want the exception language put in there, I wouldn't be against that or opposed to that, but I think they are well protected at this moment, and we've researched it and looked through it quite a bit to know that, so.
I don't disagree that they're not protected, but I would say just to be safe and give people the peace of mind, I think it'd be worth it just to add it. I mean, I don't think it's gonna hurt anything.
Yeah, I did look at, I
Pretty
think it was
easy.
OP's has, they have like a separate
It's
ordinance
just a
that
little,
adds a,
subsection, yeah,
the-
whatever.
exemptions for that ordinance are this.
Yeah,
And it adds the
children,
language in, so it wasn't even the same ordinance.
Yeah,
So if it's not incredibly difficult and not incredibly lot of work, then I would be in favor of adding the exemption language somehow.
yeah, I agree.
I would say don't reinvent the wheel. It's already there.
And I believe as a nursing mother of 7 in the past too, that not really any nursing mother would ever consider that indecent. But we're looking at it as a way to protect our children, that we don't want them to be exposed to something that is indecent. So I think it's a good ordinance that will protect our city, because there's some cities out there across the nation that have gotten way out of hand with indecent exposure that we don't want our community exposed to.
Any other discussion or questions or? So I guess the last question is do we want to sit with it already being federally and state protected? Do we still want, I can go either way on it. I'm not opposed to adding it in there, but I also think that they are already federally and state protected. So I don't think it's required to be added on there, but like I say, I wouldn't be against it if there's enough people, you know, if there's enough of you that want to add it on there, I wouldn't be opposed to doing it, obviously.
I would say let's go above and beyond, because
Yeah,
I think it's what
so.
our citizens want. So I think that's
agree.
what we should do.
I think it's something that you have to be careful because you're diving into a very hotly debated topic and a very sensitive topic. And if Spring Hill wants to get in that business, you're now diving into an arena that you need to be aware that you're diving into that arena. So I'm not saying, you know, it's already protected. Do we want to get in that business?
If we're getting into the business of trying to match the ordinances in other cities, we're just really matching what they have already. So I don't think we're doing much diving into anything. I think we're just,
Well, like Mayor Berkey said that their ordinances, some of those ordinances.
at any
were
time
in-
things can change, right? Federally
Sure.
and state. So I don't know why we wouldn't put a clause in there to protect them if those things change. I think that's all we're doing, so.
Like I say, I'd be fine with adding it if there's a consensus, or we probably need to vote on it if we want
Then
to
once she got here.
add it on.
I don't know that we can vote on something on a discussion.
No, we
item.
can't.
Yeah,
have to-
discussion, yeah, I guess we can't take.
We'd have to add
we
it
can-
probably next time.
We can give
Yeah,
direction
next-
of,
Yeah,
you know, so
if you want to step up to the lectern.
Yeah, she got her-
Typically, we don't let someone, if it's not during citizen, but if you want to step up to the microphone, yeah, sure. Give us your name, that'd be great.
Hi, Mayor and your people and the people of Spring Hill. My name is Mai Emelina, which means I'm a mother of Emelina. And I'm an advocate for breastfeeding. And I'm an advocate for peace and love. And I'm a resident of Spring Hill. And I breastfed Emelina all the way, and I enjoyed it. And she enjoyed it, and thank you for allowing the women of Spring Hill to be themselves. And I heard you guys, blaspheming and brainstorming about what to do. And since I'm a breastfeeding advocate, and I was listening on when I was coming from work, and there was like an extra 170K somewhere in the budget. And if you would let me, I would love to have something for breastfeeding women in Spring Hill. And if you would give me some money, I would totally or something and empower them, and something we can do for the women, and that'll be fun. And they will learn, and you will also learn for the women of Spring Hill.
Thank you.
thank you for offering that.
All right, so I think we just need to come to a consensus whether we're gonna send it back and add the language in there, or leave it as it is, leave it protected, but leave it as it is.
What do you think?
I feel that it's protected as it is because it's a natural thing and it's not indecent nursing your children. And I think the general amount of people realize that.
I also feel like we're changing a law for something that's not an issue.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't want to speak for Chief Henson, but are people calling the police because of this? Yeah, I feel like we're going above and beyond because people are scared that there's gonna be a problem, and I realize there's laws to protect situations like this, but, number one, they're already protected. I'm also a nursing mom, and this was never a fear of mine, and maybe that's lucky for us that we were blessed to never have that fear. But we're protected, we're good.
Yeah.
That's my personal thought.
You already know mine. I think
Yeah.
I think we should have Chip.
Yeah, it makes people feel better. I say tack it on. You know, makes people warm and fuzzies. Okay, I think it's redundant, but if it's helpful, next subject.
Yeah. I think it's a small thing we can do.
Yeah, and I think, like I've said before, I think they're already protected. But I think if it will make people feel more safe and just eliminate any confusion that might be out there, I'm all for adding it. So, all right, perfect.
Thank you.
So we'll plan on adding that on, and we'll get it ready for the next meeting.
If it's okay, we'll just have a separate ordinance on amending,
I think that'd be the most
Yep.
favorable, yeah.
Yep.
similar to what other communities have.
Yep.
Thank you.
And can we also add in there the under 10
Yeah, I would
clause
say the
as
same
well?
words. Yeah, listed.
Did you guys get that? We want to add the under 10 clause in there as well.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yep.
Is there, I don't know if this is appropriate to reference, an already existing federal law? Oh,
We were just
okay.
discussing.
Yeah, you must have phenomenal hearing. I was actually,
It's because I'm a mom.
yeah, I was gonna say, mom, so yeah,
Eyes in the back of your head.
kind of with, and this is something we'll talk.
That way you
about
could
staff,
tie them
but-
together, that way if
Yeah.
anybody ever had a question, you could say in,
Yeah, I think
pursuant
it's
of
cleanest
federal.
to reference the federal and state laws both, and the state law also has the two sections, and one of them says breastfeeding is allowed anywhere the mother has a right to be, but the other section discusses this strong state policy in favor of breastfeeding, and so it wouldn't hurt to just incorporate both, and
Sure.
Yeah.
as long as you all agree with that strong state policy, which is what it sounds like, that
Absolutely.
accomplishes what you're trying to do tonight as well.
I think the spirit of the entire governing body, and I try not to speak for them, but it is to let everyone know we support it and we want to eliminate any confusion on it. Is the whole point of the ordinance was to protect kids and protect the community, and I think that's, all of us want to support all those freedoms that everybody enjoys.
Yep.
And eliminate any confusion there might be. So. All right. Next, we'll move on to announcements and reports. I don't really have anything new to announce. I guess I do a little bit, other than the pool repair is complete and they're getting ready to start filling the pool. We got the slide repair is complete for the first time in, I believe, like 6 or 7 years that'll be open and available, something like that. So that'll be exciting. So my kids are excited about it, I know that. So to have all the features of the aquatic center available will be amazing. And I believe
And it
May
was-
29th, I believe, is when the pool opens.
And it was 30,000. Stayed within budget.
Good.
Yep.
Great.
Wasn't this hundreds of thousands of dollars that had been talked about
You tried out
for
yet?
many years? No, not yet.
Okay.
It would have been a dry run.
I went down there and walked around in it, but
Little
it was still wet.
Little floor Bernie.
So that's really all I got. I'm just excited that that'll be up and going and be available for the community to enjoy. Mrs. Roth?
Shortly after our last meeting, I did have the pleasure of attending the groundbreaking ceremony for Gemtech, and I got to talk to Mr. Dan Carpenter, and I just wanted to share that I shared this in another capacity as well, but I'm going to share it here as well. I was very impressed talking to him about how employee-centered that company is, and his retention is really low, and somebody else really expanded on it at another, again, event I was at, but they also said that he truly seemed to invest in his employees and wanted his employees to be a part of that groundbreaking. And I know Mr. Peel was there as well, so I'm sure he maybe got the similar feeling, but it was like, if you could bring in companies to Spring Hill and have them be part of this community, like, it sounds like they're a good one to be here. So I was very happy and pleased to meet Mr. Carpenter.
He's giving away cash prizes to his employees.
Right.
At the groundbreaking too.
Yeah.
So I thought.
And
that
there was
very
cookies.
cool. Yeah, and the cookies were amazing too.
Yes.
And I was.
Which is the only reason I went.
To tag on to that, I had to miss it. I was sad that I missed it, but I was actually I was over in Manhattan at a mayor's conference that was put on by Mark and then also the Kansas Association of Mayors, and that was really fun and informative. Good event, a 2-day event out there, and there was probably 150 people there, and of that, I would say there was between 50 and 75 mayors from across Kansas. So that was a fun, very informative event that I was able to attend. So I really enjoyed that, getting to meet a lot of other mayors. And since then, some of them have reached out to me and picked my brain a little bit from the little tiny experience that I have of being mayor. So, Mr. Peel?
I saw a group of lifeguards that were going through either initial training or some kind of training yesterday evening when I was here. So that was cool to see that we're getting them up and ready. So tagging on with the pool there. I still keep seeing the Clearwave trucks, so they're doing work. I haven't heard a lot of feedback from that yet, but I see a lot of productivity. So continued optimism on that.
I've heard of a few lines being buried from a few people.
I think they came to play ball. They came in and they started doing work.
I think they also recently, I think everybody, if you're in Spring Hill, probably got a card that basically addressed the fact that, like, hey, we know that, like, we haven't finished our build out, and of what we have started, it's not finished. Like, we're aware, we're working on it. So they've addressed it, and I thought that was.
I'll have to go check the mailbox.
I thought that was great that they have addressed the big, elephant in the room.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I had was I thought Mr. Arvalo had good public comment about the election process, questions and stuff. So I know there's probably a lot of citizens that would like to see that discussion. And so I think like a good first step for us could be to have either a presentation or just some information given about what the current status is, what the procedures would be as far as making changes, what options would look like. Just exploring that and, putting that out in the public and for us, and then we can have a discussion, and it may end up leading to changes or it may not lead to any changes, but I think it would be worthwhile to go through the process with it.
Okay. Mr. Van Houten?
No report.
Mr. Young?
Mr. Peel keeps taking on my talking points. No, I don't have anything else.
I screenshot your list.
Yeah.
When you got up.
No report. Mr. Burton? No report. Mr. Lau?
No report. Thank you for having me tonight.
Yes, thank you. Chief Henson?
No report.
Miss Armstrong?
No report.
Miss Garrity?
No report.
Miss Jones?
I will say that in terms of the established numbers we had for recruiting for the aquatic center at the beginning of the season, we only have 3 positions that we need to make offers for. So that's good. But in terms of those offers, we still have about 17 of the kids that need to send me some information, so I'll be reaching out to them again. But to piggyback on Mr. Peel's comment about last night was the second session that we had of I call it the paper City Hall orientation. And so we've done 22 of the kids so far, and we have another session for tomorrow and one on Sunday.
And I believe we had, Mr. Squire said we had like 59 kids that put in applications for it, something like that.
59, well, no, so we're at 49 live.
49, okay, maybe it was 49.
Yes.
Yeah, 49. Which is, if anybody was around last year, I mean, we were struggling around. We were hovering around like 13, 14 kids for a while.
50 is a very good number.
Yes.
We should be incredibly proud of that.
Absolutely. Mr. Messer?
Well, 50 would be a good number now that we have another slide and we have to watch more.
Yep.
The slide is, they're gonna start filling it Monday. They're doing pressure washing out there right now. I know another thing that everybody's curious about is the Quick Trip.
That's moving along pretty well. The valves that have been worrying everybody are supposed to have been shipped tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that. And our lift station is part of that process, and all indications are it'll be ready to go at the end of the month. So we're pretty happy about that. We do have a park meeting Monday. One of the topics, again, will be Veterans Memorial Park. I did attend, after the last meeting, we had the American Legion stop by and had some comments. I stopped by one of their meetings, and we were able to incorporate most of their concerns into the plans.
Oh, great.
Good, that's
Awesome.
excellent.
I think it was pretty positive, and I think we're in good shape.
Great. Where are we at on the process, the bid process and all that?
It's either, should be out next week or, we're in conversations on, do we have all the paperwork, but the bidding is moving forward fairly quickly right now.
Great.
Very good.
Great. Do we have, I know, being construction company owner myself, do we have a targeted end date now for Quick Trip? Do they thrown a date out there? I know we can't hold them to it, but I'm just curious if.
They'd really like to get open, mid next month. We are still,
That's quicker than I expected. Yeah, I thought it was.
we are still waiting on power for our lift station, and it may be a case that we'll be running a generator to pump that lift station. So if it is, that's what we'll have to do. But all indications from their contractors, they would like to be ready by the middle of next month.
Wow.
So.
And that power issue is not anything to do with the city, that has to do with the power company, correct?
That's correct. It's Evergy, and yes.
Yeah. I was gonna
Probably have
I was gonna not say the
discussions.
name, but you did, so yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll say it. We'll probably have further discussions regarding Evergy in the coming months.
Mm-hmm.
So
I did forget to ask, where are we at on the RFP for the comp plan? I haven't heard any more.
it's ready to be released. I just went over the final version today with Chuck.
Okay.
Our attorney, Mr. Dunley, I'm sorry. And so we'll get that out.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm excited about that. I think that's something the community wants and the entire governing body up here wants, and I think the entire staff wants. Just we're ready. It's something that's, needed for a lot of years, and I'll be excited to have the community be involved in that, and definitely invite any of you guys out there to spread the word, and when we start having those meetings about the comprehensive plan, to show up and give your input, and we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, we want to grow how the community wants us to grow. So, anything else? If not, the next item on the agenda is an executive session. And
How much time you need?
how much time?
Mr. Lowe, how much time do you think?
How much time?
Oh, okay.
10 minutes? Okay.
I'll say we need to add.
Yeah, Mr. Burton?
There may be consideration after it on the discussion.
Okay, so possible formal action.
Possible formal action, yes.
All right, I entertain a motion to recess into executive session.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive advice of council regarding contract dispute and potential litigation pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception of KSA 75-4319B2 of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The open meeting will resume in the chamber council at 8:50. Am I reading that right?
Yep.
Okay. Persons to be in attendance are Spencer Lowe, McEnany, Van Cleve, and Phillips, Patrick Burton, interim city administrator, and Tyler Ellsworth, Kutak Rock.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not,
Did he add?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Don't we need to add?
I said he was the first one. Lowe.
I'm talking about. Consider the.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I gotta go back.
Now it's not 8:50 anymore.
Thank you.
You can just amend it.
Let's say I will
Add.
amend previous motion to also include that potential formal action could come after the executive session. And executive session will now end at 8:52.
So amended?
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5 whoever does,
I'll just leave this to work.
whoever does the motion, we only need 10 minutes. It's 20 minutes, we only need 10.
I'm not doing that.
Brian's like, I did it once. I messed up.
I did my one.
I did one and I messed up, so I'm not doing it.
Took longer because we had a.
Cause they got me.
Are you calling us back?
All right. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened in open meeting at 8:52 PM. Sorry, I'm writing here.
You're fine.
No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The decision was limited to the subject stated. Discussion was limited to the.
There you go.
stated.
You did say
Decision. Discussion stated.
Clarification.
Next, we have an executive session number.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
sorry. You're good.
I'd like to motion to direct Kutak Rock and the city attorney to prepare a mutual release of an existing escrow agreement.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. Now we'll move to executive session number 2, and that's the consideration of motion to recess into executive session under the non-elected personnel exemption. And whoever wants to do that one. And we would need, I think we said 10 minutes on that one.
10 minutes. I move the city council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss performance of non-elected personnel pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception, KSA 75-4319B1 of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 9:05 PM. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Patrick Burton, interim city administrator.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Oh.
Got a motion and a second?
Yeah, second.
Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0. We'll see you shortly. Chip did, I believe.
Yeah, Chip was second. He didn't have his mic on. Someday.
You know what, right there, you're gonna grab it, thank you though.
All right, welcome back, guys. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened into open meeting at, about 2 minutes late, about 9:07 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. Nobody has anything else. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0-0. Have a good night, guys.